Hey, what's up everybody? Eternal Fire here, and today I'm bringing you a video guide on the Havoc Demon Hunter and the Legion Beta. Today we're going to be looking at the spellbook, talent tree, as well as the build that I use. We're going to talk about the single and AoE target rotation, and we're also going to be looking at the stat priorities and the artifact weapon. With that said, let's get into the spellbook. First, we have Blade Dance. It costs 35 Fury, and keep in mind that Fury is the resource that Havoc Demon Hunters use. It's an instant ability on a 9-second cooldown. Strike all nearby enemies for physical damage and increase your chance to dodge by 100% for 1 second. Then we have Chaos Nova. It costs 30 Fury. It's an instant ability on a 1-minute cooldown. Unleash an eruption of fell energy, stunning nearby enemies for 5 seconds and dealing chaos damage. So it's just a AoE stun that is targeted around you. And then we have Chaos Strike, which is your main Fury dumping single target ability. It costs 40 Fury. It's an instant. Slice your target for chaos damage. Critical strikes refund 20 Fury. So with that said, let's talk about the stat priorities real quick. Right now, Agility is the main stat that Demon Hunters use because it increases attack power. And then Critical Strike is going to be the next highest priority stat because, this is your main Fury dumping ability. But when you critical strike with this ability, it refunds half of the amount of Fury that it takes to use it. So basically you're going to have a lot more uptime on this ability and ultimately getting a lot more damage out. So then we're going to go to Consume Magic. It's an interrupt. You interrupt the enemy's spell cast and lock them out of that school for 3 seconds. Generates 50 Fury on a successful interrupt. Darkness summons darkness around you in an 8-yard radius, cloaking friendly targets and granting a 15% chance to avoid all damage from an attack. Lasts 8 seconds. It's on a 3-minute cooldown. Then we have Demon's Bite. Quickly attack for physical damage. Generates 20 to 30 Fury. I-Beam costs 50 Fury. It's a channeled ability on a 45-second cooldown. Blasts all enemies directly in front of you for chaos damage. I-Beam will always critically strike. So that looks like a really fun ability. So let's take a look at what it looks like, and this is what I-Beam looks like. So lots of numbers there, lots of crits, always crits. So that's a pretty cool ability to use. It's I think primarily an AoE ability. It might be something you're going to end up fitting into your single target rotation on cooldown. And then we have Fell Rush. Rush forward, incinerating anything in your path for chaos damage. It does do a decent amount of damage, but just based on the build I use, I don't really use it because I'm not spec'd into it or talented into it, so it doesn't give me Fury, which you can talent into. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Then we have the artifact. It's the Fury of the Illidari, throws the twin blades of the Deceiver in a whirlwind of energy, causing chaos damage over 3 seconds to all nearby enemies. So that just looks like this, and it's on a 1-minute cooldown. So it's a really nice AoE ability. It only lasts for 3 seconds. Then we have Glide, reduces your fall speed. You can activate this ability with the jump key while falling. So you can double jump and then you can glide. So, if you ever fall to your death while questing or something, that's on you. And then we have Imprison. It's a CC. Imprisons a demon for 1 minute. Damage will cancel the effect. Limit 1. 10-second cooldown. Metamorphosis is one of your damage cooldowns. It's an instant ability on a 4-minute cooldown. Leap into the air and land with explosive force, dealing chaos damage to enemies within 8 yards and stunning them for 3 seconds. Upon landing, you are transformed into a hellish demon for 30 seconds, greatly empowering your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance abilities and gaining 25% haste. So when you use this ability, your Chaos Strike turns into Annihilation and your Blade Dance turns into Death Sweep, and it just makes those abilities more powerful. And as you saw, I had to place where I wanted to put it, and then you basically just have increased damage and much more haste. So that's what that looks like. Then we have Spectral Sight, allows you to see enemies and treasures through physical barriers as well as enemies that are stealthed and invisible. Last 10 seconds. Attacking or taking damage disrupts the sight. Throw Glaive, instant ability on a 10-second recharge. I'm talented into it because I didn't know what else to take in that tier. I have 2 charges of it. Throw a demonic glaive at the target, dealing physical damage. The glaive can ricochet to 2 additional enemies within 10 yards. Then we have Vengeful Retreat. It looks like this. It's basically like a disengage for a demon hunter. Viciously assault nearby enemies and vault away. Assaulting enemies take physical damage and have their movement speed reduced by 70% for 3 seconds. So, if you need to run away, that's a good ability to use. Also used like, regular hunters would do to increase their mobility. You can just turn your back, to where you want to go, and then use it that way if you need to move, during a fight. So then we have the passives. Passive double jump, we talked about that. It's just a double jump. And then we have Mastery Demonic Presence. It's a passive, increases your chaos damage by 18% and your movement speed by 18%. And then we have Shattered Souls. Killing an enemy sometimes creates a soul fragment that is consumed when you approach it, healing you for 25% of maximum health and generating 30 fury. If soul fragment came from a demon, you will deal 20% increased damage for 15 seconds. So that's the spell book. That's abilities that you have in your arsenal. Let's take a quick look at the artifact weapon. First, we have Fury of the Illidari, throws the twin blades of the Deceiver. We looked at that ability. It's just that, the blades whirl around doing AoE damage. Then we have Warglaives of Chaos, increases damage dealt by chaos strikes by 15%. We have Balanced Blades, increases damage dealt by Blade Dance by 10% for each target within 8 yards. We have Unleashed Demons, passive, reduces the cooldown of Metamorphosis by 60 seconds, so that's nice. Then we have Demon Speed, activating Nether Walk, generates 2 charges of Fell Rush. Illidari Knowledge, reduces magic damage you take by 12%. Rage of the Illidari, when Fury of the Illidari ends, 60% of the damage it deals erupts in an explosion of fell energy, dividing that chaos damage among all nearby enemies. Contained Fury increases maximum fury by 30. We have Demon Rage, increases damage dealt by demons bite by 18%. We have Chaos Burn, the unstable chaotic energies within the blades burn away at enemy flesh, increasing all damage by 5%. Anguish of the Deceiver, each time I-Beam deals damage to a target, it also applies Anguish. When Anguish expires, it deals chaos damage to the victim per application. Chaos Vision, increases damage dealt by I-Beam by 18%. Critical Chaos, increases critical strike damage dealt by Chaos Strike by 18%. I think we read this one. Increases damage dealt by Throw Glaives by 15%. And then Feast on the Souls. When you consume a soul fragment, the remaining cooldown on I-Beam and Chaos Nova is reduced by 5 seconds. When Chaos Nova stuns a target, it has a 30% chance to generate a lesser soul fragment. You generate 15 fury each time you dodge an attack or spell. And then Chaos Strike has a chance to unleash your inner demon, causing it to crash into the target and deal chaos damage to all nearby enemies. So almost all of these are passives. If you have your artifact weapon, they basically just make different abilities you have, buffed, more powerful, lesser cooldowns, deal greater damage if you crit, and what have you. So that is what the artifact table looks like. Then we're going to go over to the talents. And again, this is probably not an optimal build, but this is the build I am using right now. And I just think it's the most fun, and I'll explain why. First, we have Fell Mastery, Chaos Cleave, and Blind Fury. I took Blind Fury, increases the duration of I-Beam by 50%. Chaos Cleave, Chaos Strike hits an additional target for 50% damage. Now, if I was doing like a council boss or something in an raid encounter where you had, more than one target up and they're in cleavable range, I would take this ability just because you're just going to, constantly get more damage, seeing as that Chaos Strike is, your main damage dealing ability you're going to be using. And then Fell Mastery increases Fell Rush damage by 50% and grants 25 fury when Fell Rush damages at least one target. I don't really like using Fell Rush that much as a fury generator. I much prefer to use Fell Blade, which is in the 3rd tier, because you instead of charging around and then you have to basically turn around and charge again and then come back, run back to the boss and generate fury that way. You generate 50 fury, but you're running all over the place. I would rather use Fell Rush for mobility if I need to get out of something or move over to another target or whatever. But Fell Blade, the thing I like about that is Fell Blade just charges at the target every time, and when it comes off cooldown, you can use it again when you're already in melee range, and you generate 30 fury, and I just think it's a lot easier. It's more fun to use. It's cleaner. And then we have Prepared Demon Blades and Demonic Appetite. Demonic Appetite's a passive. Chaos Strike has a chance to spawn a lesser soul fragment, and consuming any soul fragment grants 30 fury. So basically, whenever you're using your Chaos Strike, which is frequently, you have a chance to have a soul fragment come, and then, once it comes up, you'll run over to it and grab it, and it'll generate 30 fury for you. So it's just a chance of happening. It's not guaranteed every time you use Chaos Strike, but it is a nice little, fury increase. We have Demon Blades, which replaces Demon's Bite. So, like we talked about, Demon's Bite is a quick attack for physical damage, generates 20 to 30 fury. So this replaces that, and it's a passive. So it's going to make that your fury generation is no longer an ability you use. It's your auto attack. So your auto attacks have a 75% chance to deal additional shadow damage and generate fury. Well, most of the time I found that this did generate, a decent amount of fury quickly. I did also have times where, I would not be getting that 75% chance to generate fury, and I was just sitting there with white hits, and it wasn't fun. It didn't feel rewarding at all. So I went over with Demonic Appetite, which, again, that doesn't have doesn't guarantee the chance of getting a soul fragment to gain fury either, but at least in the meantime, you're able to use Fury's Bite, which generates 20 to 30 fury, and then you have your Fellblade, which generates 30 fury every 14 seconds, unless it's refreshed before that time. So that's why I went with that and not Demon Blades. I just think it's more fun, hands down. And then we have Fellblade, charge to your target and deal fire damage. Demon's Bite has a chance to reset the cooldown of Fellblade. So like I was talking about, when you're using this Fury generating ability, it can refresh this Fury generating ability. And you want to use that on cooldown when you're, in the part of your rotation that, you're stocking up on Fury, because this is guaranteed to give you 30, where Demon's Bite's only going to give you 22, 30. So use that whenever it's up, when you're, in the phase of your rotation where you're generating fury. And then we have Netherwalk. It's a survivability cooldown. It replaces Blur. It's an instant ability on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Slips into the Nether, increasing movement speed by 100% and becoming immune to damage, but unable to attack last 5 seconds. So, if you were going to take some fatal damage, this could really save you. It's basically like a bubble for 5 seconds, but you just can't attack while it's up. So, that could pull you out of a lot of sticky situations. We also have Desperate Instincts, which also replaces Blur. You automatically trigger Blur when you fall below 35% health. This effect can occur every 30 seconds. This basically just saves you if you make a mistake, or tries to save you if you make a mistake and don't use your ability when you should. And then Soul Rending, gain 100% leech while Metamorphosis is active. We're not using Metamorphosis as a ability that's hopefully going to keep us alive in PvE. We're using it at the beginning of the fight when we're doing our damage rotation. So I didn't think this was beneficial. Then we have Momentum, Fell Eruption, and Nemesis. Fell Eruption costs 20 fury. It's on a 35-second cooldown, instant ability, impales the target for 248,000 chaos damage and stuns them for 2 seconds. Now, inflicts an additional 100% damage against targets permanently immune to stuns. So, going back to PvE, if you're using this ability on a boss, if you're using it on some trash in raids, they're not stunnable, so you're going to be doing 100% more damage on them all the time, and then your crits, I was playing with this, and your crits are just insane. I don't know if in the long run it's better than Nemesis, but it's a lot more fun to use in my opinion. Nemesis is an instant ability with a 2-minute cooldown. It increases damage you inflict against the target for 20% for 1 minute. So you put this up on a target, and it debuffs them. It doesn't buff you, it debuffs your target. So you put it on your target, and they have a damage. You do 20% more damage to them. So if they die within that minute, you're not going to get the full effect. But it's something worth looking into. Once we find more out about the numbers and the breakdown of this class, it'll be an easier decision to make. But right now, I just think Fell Eruption is a much more fun ability to use. And then we have Master of the Glaive, Unleash Power, and Demon Reborn. Master of the Glaive, throw glaive now has 2 charges and snares all enemies hit by 50% for 6 seconds. Unleashed Power is a passive, removes the Fury cost of Chaos Nova and reduces its cooldown by 33%. Remember, Chaos Nova is your AoE stun. And then we have Demon Reborn. Invoking Metamorphosis also resets the cooldowns of I-Beam, Chaos Nova, and Blur. I didn't really know which one was better. I don't think any of them are particularly awesome, so I just went with Master of the Glaive. Then we have Chaos Blades, Fell Barrage, and Demonic. Chaos Blades increases all damage. It's an instant ability on a 2-minute cooldown. Increases all damage by 18% based on mastery for 12 seconds. While active, your auto attack deals 200% increased damage and causes chaos damage. So basically, I was just using that in my initial burst. And then Fell Barrage, at your command, unleash Fell, inflicting chaos damage to your target and nearby enemies for each charge, max 5 charges. Your damaging attacks have a chance to generate a charge. So that was kind of an interesting ability. It felt a little awkward, but it looked pretty cool. Then we have Demonic. It's a passive. I-Beam causes you to enter demon form for 5 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. So we use Fellblade, Demon's Bite. Now we're going to use our 2 damage abilities. Now we're going to dump our Fury into Chaos Strike, which is Annihilation right now because of Metamorphosis. You want to typically have 80 Fury before you use your Fury dumping ability. So, again, you're just going to be using Fellblade and Demon's Bite. And the way I have this spec built, it does feel a lot more fun than using the Demon Blades, where you feel like you're just sitting there waiting to use your abilities. Where this is much more engaging, much more entertaining for me. There's more to do. That's kind of the play style I like. So now let's talk about the AoE rotation. For that, you're going to be using I-Beam and Blade Dance. Also, that's where your Fell Rush is going to come in handy. You're going to be using that more. So for Fell Rush, because that hits all targets in its path. So you Fell Rush into the fray, and then you use your I-Beam. Oh, wrong ability. You use your I-Beam, and then once you have enough Fury, you're going to use your Blade Dance, and Blade Dance has a much shorter cooldown than the others, so in the meantime, if you have 80 Fury or more, you can go ahead and use your Chaos Strikes, or if you took the Fell Barrage ability, you can always use Fell Barrage as well. So, you open up, get your Fury, use your Fell Rush to go in, use your I-Beam, use your Blade Dance, and then use your Fell Barrage if you took that talent. So that's your AoE target rotation, and while all those things are on cooldown, you can go ahead with your single target rotation. So yeah, those are the rotations, guys. It's still the beta. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.